Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Bar Shem Yahushua, Bar Shem HaRakah, Kodash, double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who rule well, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. It's Paya Allah, coming back at you again with a news and prophecy. I got an article here. Lord willing, you be edified, alright? It's one dealing with the impending crisis that's to come, man. All right. Or, well, we're in the midst of a crisis, so I worded it wrong. All right. Basically, this is dealing with this is the layup, basically, for the alley-oop, should I say, for the elites of this world to basically usher in their beast system, all right, dealing with the RFID chip, at least set the ball in motion, all right? And it's already in motion. It's been in motion for a very long time. But as you probably, the better way of wording it, a new tier be set in motion, basically. So this is from Zero Hedge. And it reads, coronavirus survives on banknotes for up to 4 weeks. Study finds as cash usage plunges. Right? We highlighted an interesting development on Saturday that appeared to go largely unnoticed by the general public, despite its potential profound implications for the global economy. Right? So this is how dire this point is. The BOJ joined the Fed and the ECB in launching a pilot program to explore the use of a digital currency inspired by Bitcoin and its many rivals. Alright, now Bitcoin is a thing of much controversy anyway, because if you know anything about Bitcoin, I'm not going to look into it for the sake of time, but basically Bitcoin came out of nowhere, right, and is believed to be a CIA operation, basically, from the research that I've come across. And basically, it's been running for like over 10 years. And it more or less has been set in place, I believe, anyway, as a forerunner for the RFID chip, right, digital currency, whereby the RFID chip will be the what's that word, the tool, basically, to be used for buying and selling, alright, and its many rivals. So reading on, says, just one day later, Bloomberg revived concerns about paper money contributing to the spread of COVID-19 by publicizing the findings from a new study suggesting that SARS-CoV-2 can persist on banknotes and coins for weeks. The research appears to be credible. It is conducted by Australia's top biosecurity laboratory, which published a report highlighting the risk of paper currency touching screens and handles like doorknobs. Now, that should set alarms ringing in your mind. The fact that they're talking about paper money being at risk, but then they also mention the touching of screens, handles, and doorknobs. So the point that needs to be said then is that, okay, if you eliminate paper currency to set up digital currency, then what are you going to do about touch screens and handles and doorknobs, right? Are you going to eliminate them from the face of the earth as well? How's that going to work? That means you can't touch anything, all right? This whole human experience that we have is built upon one of your senses being touch, the ability to touch things, all right? So you eliminate, basically, if we can't touch anything, then there's no real point in living the life that we live, right? But obviously, there's an agenda, and this is a means to an end, as the CDC releases revised guidelines claiming that close contact with the infected Trump surfaces an aerosol or airborne transmission as a primary means of infection. The study from the Australian Centre of Disease Preparedness suggested that viruses can actually extremely robust, allowing it to survive for up to 28 days on smooth surfaces like glass or material used to print banknotes. Right. However, the rate of survival on surfaces declined dramatically when the temperature climbed to above 40 degrees Celsius. Okay. Viruses survival declined less than a day. I don't really want to delve into all this information. It's neither here nor there, but you can read it up if you please. We know it says the virus's extended survival time on stainless steel surfaces could help explain all those outbreaks traced to meat processing plants. The research, which was backed by the Australian Department of Defence, also concluded that SARS-CoV-2 survives for far longer on surfaces than the seasonal flu, right? So basically, the COVID survives far longer than the seasonal flu, right? These findings revived memories of American banks decontaminating banknotes, a practice that was apparently pioneered by Beijing and the PBOC, which aggressively disinfected paper money while using the pandemic to further push the Chinese people toward relying on 100% of it. And I ain't even read this, but that's what I was thinking. 100% on electric payments. Yeah, and then basically taking all the money out of circulation or refusing paper money, or taking it all out of circulation to decontaminate it, but then going to an electric based system. That's one avenue, one means into which they can force the people into using digital electronic payments. Because remember as well, when this pandemic first kicked off, you had a lot of people wary to use cash. Places I went, they wouldn't handle cash unless they put a glove on, or as soon as they handle the cash, they disinfect their hands. Okay, I know one individual in particular that their hands is basically scarred because of excessive use of the what's this thing called, sanitizer. All right. So reading on, it says sadly these warnings will likely serve a similar purpose in the West, including Europe and the US, as policymakers see a cashless society as having many benefits. All right, and this is the goal. All right, this COVID-19, don't let them tell you any other thing. It's all about establishing an agenda, a new normal, a new world order. Okay, that's why they're setting the president now. All right, they're bringing everything to a slow grind to break down the will of the people to conform to this new normal that that they want to bring about. All right, so that's why all the incentives will lead to the one place that is of the RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast. Okay, so again, I'll read this again. So I read, sadly, these warnings will likely serve a similar purpose in the West, including Europe and the US, as policymakers see a cashless society as having many benefits. It would force criminals to rely less on cash and more on digital currencies like Bitcoin, while keeping more of the world's money inside the banking system. Right? And if you know anything, Bitcoin is being brought into quite a lot of question. I know there's I can't remember it, but I know it's with the Great Reset, and there's a few things, but it escapes me at this moment, so I won't go down that road. But I'll read on. It says, we are already seeing this trend play out in practice after COVID-19 hit. The UK rate of cash transactions tumbled by nearly half compared to the same period during 2019. All right. So basically, whilst COVID-19 coming to play over here in the UK, right, the United Kingdom, the British Isles, basically cash wasn't trendy no more. All right. They nearly halved. All right. And there's another article where they basically said that the curve of cash payments that happened during that period that was just mentioned just there, they basically what's that word, projected that would happen within the next 5 years. So they've just basically made a 5 year progression within a few months, man. And ultimately, I believe it tivered out, like it went to some form of normality again. But this is the thing, the elites deal with a thing known as gradualism. In the book of Second Maccabees, the 8th chapter, it tells you about how the Romans, who were basically in the tail end of the Roman Empire in this day, that they basically used policy and patience. All right, so they basically administered policy alongside with patience to basically defeat all of their enemies and bring all the nations into subjection. And that's what we're presently in right now. We're in gradualism, right? Where this man, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, the devil the Bible speaks of, is basically gradually changing the mindset of the people toward the new world order, right? The new normal. So we're already seeing this trend play out in practice. After COVID-19 hit the UK, the rate of cash transactions tumbled by nearly half compared to the same period during 2019. In the US, cities like NYC and San Francisco had to force local businesses to keep accepting cash. Sorry, let me read that again. In the US, cities like NYC and San Francisco had to force local businesses to keep accepting cash during the pandemic as coin shortages and other issues caused cash transactions to drop. Their reasoning that forced customers to use plastic discrimin- discriminates against the poorest consumers, as the MIT explains. Wait, hold on. All right. So if you notice that this pandemic is it's a worldwide, obviously it's a global pandemic, but they're executing different from that's how I'm looking at it, in my personal opinion. They're executing different methods all over the globe, and I figure they're taking in their information, right? Because they want to deceive the people into willingly taking a chip. So they obviously have to operate, and I'm probably going to grab that now afterwards. They have to operate under the guise of gradualism. But as far as monetary policy makers are concerned, the greatest utility of a purely digital currency is that it opens up vast new opportunities for CBs to deliver monetary stimulus directly to consumers with the backing of their prospective treasuries, of course, as the reality on the ground increasingly resembles theoretical idea of MMT. Interested parties should, etc., etc. But the main reason why they want to do this is because the mark is a form of subjection onto the beast, right? It's basically a throwback to the awe that was struck in the air of a servant for them when they agreed to be a servant forever unto their master. And that's what this mark is a representation of. And that's why no Israelite has any business taking it. Are you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans? You have no business, and all the descendants all over the world from the nation of Israel. When this word resonates with you, you got no business taking no chip inside you, all right? Because that means you're subject onto the Esau Edom, man. Devil the Bible speaks of, all right? He ain't your power, but I'm gonna close off on this scripture. Lord willing, you being edified. Okay, it's first Maccabees 8. Sorry. Now Judas had heard of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, as and such as would lovingly accept all that join themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came unto them, and that they were men of great valor. It was told him also of their wars and noble acts which they had done among the Galatians, and how they had conquered them and brought them under tribute, and that they had done the country and what they had done in the country of Spain for the winning of the mines of the silver and gold which is there. That's the point. It says, and that by their policy and patience they had conquered all the place. So that's the point. And that by their policy and patience, it didn't say by the sword, but even though it was by the sword, but this was the mindset that was behind the swinging of that sword. They utilized policy, right? So when they went into a land, they administered a policy over the people, all right, and in order for them to establish their rule, it was done through that policy, and they'll bear with it with patience, all right, and that by their policy and patience, they had conquered all the place, though it were very far from them, and the kings also that came against them from the utmost part of the earth, till they had discomfited them and given them a great overthrow, so that the rest did give them tribute every year. And that's really what they want to do. It's the same thing now, but now they want to conquer all the people on the earth, so they give them tribute through monetary means, right? Now it's not even the fact that you give them tribute, it's the fact that they can control all the monetary power you have by having a back door to your funds, basically. So with that, I pray you are edified. Till the next one, say shalom.